my passion, and you can hear it in my voice, is about building math confidence through TI technology, educational technology. My name is Dana Morse. I work as the consultant for New York and Pennsylvania. My email is dmorse@ti.com, and my phone number is right there. And the agenda, I'm going to lay it out for you. I want to share resources and solutions for educators and students. Changes to the New York State Graphing Calculator Guidelines. I know we have some folks that are not from New York, but as this is a New York-based conference, I wanted to touch on that. And I want to show how we build the confidence through questions on our high-stakes exams. Christmas was just a few weeks ago, so I'm still in the giving mood. Solutions from Texas Instruments. A lot of us are being forced to teach from home, so the teachers need the software. We have TI SmartView CE for the TI 84 Plus. If you use a TI 83, 83 Plus, 84 Plus, anything in the 80 series, that software is your emulator so that you can demonstrate, and I'm going to be using it in this session. If you use Inspire technology, the TI Inspire CX Premium Teacher software would be that. And anybody that does a middle school mathematics, we have an emulator, TI 30 XS Multiview or TI 34 Multiview. Teachers can get a free license to any of these softwares by emailing me at dmorse@ti.com, in which you're going to send me that in that email a syllabus or a parent letter in which it states that you recommend or require that TI calculator. So if you are using the 84s or 83s, the Inspires, a scientific model that you see listed here, if you email me your syllabus, your course expectation, your parent letter in which you recommend it's one of the supplies that you need, send that to me and you'll get this software for free, a perpetual license. Now that helps the teachers. What about the students? For students, they made a 365-day subscription license that ranges from about $13 to $18. We hope that this time next year we aren't doing distance learning and that we're face-to-face. So if you need a stopgap, a solution for one of these softwares, there is an affordable one for students. That being said, Chromebooks are the new fad. It's a craze. The TI 84 Plus Chromebook app was made when COVID hit. Texas Instruments has made the beta TI 84 Plus Chromebook app free until July 15th, 2021. How do I get it? You go to www.education.ti.com. That's TI's website. You click on Resources, and you look for the Distance Learning link. Once you complete the request form, it will go to your consultant for Texas Instruments, and they will then, within the next 24, 48 hours, whatever, send you the extension ID, which you can then share with your IT or any student that has access to a Chromebook. TI does not want to profit off of a pandemic. July 15th, 2021 is the date that all schools should be done with this school year. We will re-examine where we are with COVID, if the app is a luxury or if it's a necessity. If it's a necessity, I could see this being free for the next school year. If we are back to face-to-face and the calculators can be used again, then this is more of a luxury and there would be a cost associated with it. At this point, we don't know what that would be. What have I been doing since I'm no longer going to classrooms? I made a YouTube channel where I have over 70 videos. A lot of what you're going to see in this session are already recorded in there. And the beauty of YouTube is you can pause this voice anytime you want. You can turn it down. You can fast forward, you can rewind, you can share these videos with your students. So if you're trying to do something on the technology and you just need a different voice, sometimes the kids like a different voice. Go to my YouTube channel, you just search Mr. Dana Morse, and I have all these videos from breaking down a Regents exam to coding, to how to upload apps onto your graphing calculator, how to do systems of equations. It's all there. If there's not a video that you need there, you email me and I will make it for you. Believe me, this is my job, to make you happy. So, new graphing calculator guidelines. This section is more for New Yorkers. March 2nd, 2020, New York State Department of Ed released new guidelines for the calculators. And it's earth-shattering in many ways what changed. I'm going to jump to that right now, the new graphing calculator guidelines. And don't kick yourself if you didn't know about these and you're in New York. This happened a week before everything shut down, so make this the chance that you learn about it. So, for years, the first bullet point, we've known that in New York State, the high-stakes exam, Regents exam, you cannot use a computer algebraic system, a CAS calculator. Anything capable of doing symbolic algebra or symbolic calculus, for example, factoring, expanding, simplifying, giving a variable output. We've known that for years. So some people saw that and said, it's the same old, I don't need to read any further. The second bullet is a change. A calculator cannot have measuring capabilities, segment lengths, areas, polygons, things like that. TI makes the TI Inspire, which has that feature, but when you put it into test mode, you can turn off the extra geometry features, which would take care of that bullet. So if you're a New York educator and you use Inspire, make sure that when you do press to test, you turn off the extra geometry functionality. And the third bullet, we've known for years, your calculator can't communicate with somebody else's. Your device that you're using can't communicate. Hey, Steve, what did you get for answer 3? You can't send that across the room to somebody else. That's not a new one. And most people would stop there. The FAQs is really where you uncover a lot of new information. Number 1, can I use a graphing calculator that simplifies radicals or gives exact trig values? I've been singing this from the mountaintops. The answer's been no, until now. Yes, these features are allowed. So a calculator that makes radical 8 2 radical 2, or sine 45 equals radical 2 over 2, those are now acceptable. But it's on the district to know the functionality of each calculator. You can't just take my word for it. I'm going to shoot you straight, but in the end, you have to make sure every one of these bullets and FAQs is up to snuff. So that's a big deal that you can have exact arithmetic. Number 4, my calculator has a CAS, our computer algebra system has CAS. May I use that on the Regents exam? You would expect the answer to be no, which it is, unless there's a way to restrict the CAS feature. That's big, because TI released a TI Inspire CX2 CAS, Roman numeral 2, that has the ability to turn off CAS and leave on exact arithmetic, which means that model fits the New York State guidelines better than all the rest. So if you can turn off CAS, it can be used. Number 9, my calculator will reflect over our y-axis. Is this allowed? No, they cannot perform transformations. So you are going to have to turn off the transformation app on the 84, and you have to do the limit geometry functionality on the Inspire. Number 11, I think, is big because I've had conversations years ago with State Ed, and they've told me that this was the rule, but it was never written down. You can see number 11. You cannot use multiple calculators on the Regents exam. Whichever one you choose, that's the one you go with. Okay, so those are big features I wanted to point out. So, like I said, the TI Nspire CX2 CAS, even though it has CAS in the title, you have an exact arithmetic setting which would be acceptable for the New York State exams. Okay. Building math confidence. We all know that math is the one subject area that it is socially acceptable to say, I struggle with math. You've heard it at restaurants. You know people laugh about hating math. And that hurts all of us to the core. Look at us. It's a Saturday. We're giving up a Saturday to do a math conference. Students do not like to ask for help in front of their peers. In the classroom, they would just shrug down, not try make eye contact with the teacher. You don't want to be called on. Now, you're a little square on a screen, and if you talk, your square becomes the large one. Everybody knows it's you. Kids do not want to out themselves to ask for help. So the way I look at the technology is that it's a way for students to be self-contained. The students can use the technology to get that instant feedback to verify that they're doing it right. Self-doubt is a big problem when it comes to confidence, especially in math. I was a teacher, and a student in the front row would say the answer to number 1 is 2. And all I had to do as the math teacher was walk over to them and say, are you sure about that? And they would totally change their answer. Even though they were right. They would change their answer on the spot because math, we just doubt ourselves. Okay, so let's get into how the technology can help us. So I have the 84 family. This is TI SmartView. And if you don't have the CE, don't worry. There's a drop down in the software that allows you to go between the various models. So Joyce had said that her TI-84 had stopped working. If she's teaching from afar, the handheld's nice, but I'd rather have the software because that's how I'm teaching now. If some of us out there still have 83 plus because TI's still making them and they're cheaper, all you have to do on a TI-84 plus is go to mode and change it from math print to classic, and you've made your calculator into a TI-83 plus. Classic is a polite way of saying old. So that's one way of changing your emulator to the model that you need. And if we have Nspire users out there, I have the Nspire right here as well. I have a feeling the majority of our participants are 84 users, so I will lean heavily on the 84. I'll show some features on the Nspire, but again, my YouTube channel, if you're an Nspire user and you want more, please visit it. Fractions. I taught algebra through calculus, and even my calculus students, they struggled with with fractions. Sorry, I got distracted. I looked at the chat. I saw a great chat here. I'll bounce back and forth. Does TI have any calculators for visually impaired students? Excellent question. I get it once a month at least. For visual impairment, I strongly advise this software. You can blow it up. You can make it larger. It's much easier to see than the calculator. That's usually followed up with hearing impaired students. We have School for the Deaf that all across New York State that use the Nspire. Navigator is a great tool because the teacher can interact with every single student's handheld from their computer. So I'm sorry I went on that tangent. Fractions. For years, we've taught kids to do fractions as 8 divided by 10 or 12, and you get this little slash, and we tell them that it's division, but it's still a fraction, and it confuses them at an early age. Because that's not how you're writing fractions on the board. You're writing fractions as a stacked fraction. 7 years ago or so, Math Print came out on the graphing calculators. Alpha, the green alpha key, followed by y equals, is a shortcut. Walmart, if you will. Walmart is a one-stop shop. You can do it all. You can get your groceries and your tires changed in the automotive department. We want one-stop shopping on fractions for the 84. So option 1 is a stacked fraction. I can put in my numerator, put in my denominator, press enter, auto simplification. These are things that the scientific calculators have had for years, and then a student is introduced to a graphing calculator and they're missing their favorite button, the ABC fraction key. That's here as well. Alpha y equals ABC fraction key. It's a UND, so units, numerator, denominator. 3, right arrow, 8, right arrow, 12. When I press enter, it takes it from my mixed number, writes it as an improper fraction. Alpha y equals, the third option is meant for what we have. Take an improper fraction or a mixed number and rewrite it. So I have seen 3 and 8/12 rewritten as 11/3, rewritten as 3 and 2/3, but there's those kids that struggle with fractions and they just want to see a decimal. Alpha y equals, fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions. I can see the multiple representation in one number just by going through that gauntlet. I used to be guilty of saying math fracket, but in upstate New York, and I'm sure all over the country, fracking means something totally different. So I try to avoid fracking now. And I'm not going to go through it all, but alpha window, now you have a shortcut for all of these math templates. So it's really great to update your calculators. If you're doing it at home and you press alpha and it's not showing this, we will talk afterwards. I've made a video on how to update your operating system. Is the solver feature considered CAS or is it allowed? The solver feature, numeric solver, is just going to spit out a numeric answer. It doesn't show any work. It doesn't do any algebraic manipulation. The solver is okay if it's the numeric solver. So, Donnie, numeric solver is okay. All right, I'm going to quit out of this. Math test. This feature has been on the TI 81, 82, all the way on up. It's my biggest friend, and it uses the button that nobody ever presses. It's the store key at the bottom of your TI 84. So, the way I introduced it to students is I started with this, -3 squared. And when I put that on the screen, there are a lot of kids that are adults right now that start to chuckle because you know what it's going to spit out. It's going to spit out -9. So, all you need to do to fix it is use parentheses, correct? That's what I thought. When I started teaching, I said, I'll just teach the kids to use parentheses. And then, my first day of teaching, this happened. The student said they used parentheses, which they did, but they didn't use the parentheses appropriately. That's talking to a brick wall. They aren't going to see what you mean by that. So I went to an intensive TI training, and I fell in love with the store key. So I would then teach my kids right out of the gate, take a value, store it into a variable, we have a built-in X key, and press enter. Now, whenever I use X on this screen, it will be the value -3. X squared without parentheses, and I get the desired outcome. That's step 1. Now, I go to the next step. Students would doubt their math abilities, especially when we introduced variables. I love the meme or the GIF, or GIF, depending on how you call it. Math was easy until letters got involved. I'm sure as math teachers, you've seen that at some point. If I were to say, well, I forgot, what did I have in for X? -3. X times X. I would split my room right down the middle. Half my kids thinks it would be 2x, and the other one would think it would be x squared. There's a math test feature that I show all students to verify their answers. The math button is right here, and it says test right up above it. So if I press second math to access the test feature, math test, and I select the equal sign, and I set it equal to 2x, it has -3 in for x. So it's doing -3 times -3 equals 2 times -3. And the answer to that is no. It's false. And you earn 0 credit. So if that's the case, I tell the students to up arrow twice into their history, press enter, and that's a copy and paste feature, and replace the 2x with x squared. And when you press enter to evaluate, you get 1, which means you earned a credit, you got it right. This works for this instance because remember, what's in for x? -3. You don't want to be loosey-goosey. You don't want the kids to choose whatever value they want to store in for x, and you already know why. What if a student decided to choose 2 store x? Now, they try that same example with x times x equals 2x, and because 2 is substituted in for x, they're going to get a false positive. So I taught my students to avoid integers at all costs. The store button doesn't have the RE on it, but it has an arrow, and it's pointing across the bottom keypad. So I advise my kids to use a non-integer value, something with a decimal, to store in for x. 12.3 store into the variable x, and I press enter. Now I can factor, I can do distribution, I can do so many algebraic skills with this in place. X squared minus 9. A difference of 2 squares. I need to factor this. Second math, that's the test feature. Open parentheses, x plus 3, close parentheses, and x minus 3. And it gives us our instant feedback. That student who doubts their math skills doesn't have to speak up on a Zoom meeting, doesn't have to raise their hand in your classroom and say, am I doing this right? That 1 means yes, 0 means no, gives them instant feedback. And I can do it on the Inspire. The store is located here above the var button. So 12.3, store into the variable x, and on this one I'll do x squared minus 25. There's a standalone equals button, open parentheses, x plus 5, close up shop, open the door, x minus 5, whoops, got a little itchy trigger finger there, press enter. The nice thing about the Inspire is that you see a true-false output as opposed to a 1 means yes, 0 means no. 7.5, Jolene, excellent, that works too. So let's now apply this to questions from state exams. Which value of x makes this monstrosity true? My kids would just raise the red flag right away saying, I can't do this, there's fractions. They try to make these into decimals. Math print and this store test feature makes it all better. So I'll choose 8. 8, store x, enter. Now I need a fraction. Alpha y equals, I can type in x minus 3 for the numerator, 4 for the denominator, plus, fraction template again, 2/3, math test feature, and I'm going to set it equal to yet another fraction, 17 12ths. Kids get over the fear of fractions when they can actually make it mirror what they see on the paper. So I got a 0, which means it's not correct. I could try 6 and store that in for x. And if I execute that line after the 6 has been stored in for x, it will substitute in 6, and I get the verification that it's correct. Now, question 5 from the January Algebra 1 Regents exam. My source is jmap.org. Love Steve Seibel and Steve Watson. Ian, they're fantastic. Questions like 6, the expression is equivalent. And from the same exam, 6 questions later, another expression is equivalent. To raise the stakes in your classroom, take questions from jmap.org, especially multiple choice, and cover up the answers. So what I would do is I'd take it from jmap.org. I'm going to insert a shape, and you could do this however you want, but now the students can't just set it equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. You force them to do paper and pen, and then they can check their answers after. So, if you ever forget, put in your variable, see what's stored in. I don't want 6 stored in for x. I want my trusty 12.3. Store x. And I have this expression. 18x squared minus 50. Second math. Set it equal. Now, I've already passed all my exams, so I'm going to look at the answers, and I believe I can factor out a greatest common factor of 2, leaving me with the difference of 2 squares. So I will go with 2 times the quantity, 3x minus 5, and 3x plus 5. This would be answer 3, and I get that 1. You might have students that struggle with math and they don't want to out themselves, but you also have those kids that want that pat on the back. Every single question they do, did I do this one right? Did I do this one right? This is a great way for you to say, lean on the technology. Does the technology verify it? Before we even started, we were having a conversation about how technology can be a benefit. We want to use it appropriately. I don't lead with this, but this is a good way to just say, yes, I'm doing it right. Question 12, I doubt you need me to do it again, but you're just setting the expression equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can check it. We might have some Algebra 2 people in the room. Algebra 2, January 2020, simplifying radicals. My students had no problem with it until you threw the variables in. So on the 84 alpha window, there's the xth root, which makes everything look so much prettier. 4, right arrow, 81x raised to the 8th power, get out of the exponent position, and here's an issue. It has multivariable. I haven't stored anything into y yet. Ugh. So you know what? I'm going to get an error message, but I've already gotten this far. I'll finish it up. Y to the 6th. I might as well just press enter right now and get 0. Okay? I never put anything in for y. 12.3 is my standard go-to for x. I go back across the keyboard, 32.1, store, and if you don't know how to get a y on your 84, ask any of your students. They're savvy at texting. Alpha unlocks all the green letters. The y is above the 1. So now you have 32.1 stored in for y. So I can go back to the original problem, the math test feature, and I'll go with 3x squared y, and I choose this example because this is just so pretty. An exponent that's a fraction, well, make it an exponent first, and then choose the fraction tool that just looks so much nicer than all these years prior. And you get the 1 to verify. Evaluating an expression or equation. So you're given from the Algebra 1 June 2019, here's f of x, evaluate f of negative 3. Cool feature on the 84. How I like to approach this, I go to my y editor, my y1, and put in something like 4x plus 5, and I quit out of here. I know many of you say, just go to the table and look it up. Cool stuff here. Alpha trace. It's a shortcut for your y functions. I put 4x plus 5 into y1. So if I select y1, open parentheses, and substitute in negative 3, close parentheses, it will evaluate that function when x equals negative 3. I was guilty of this. In the classroom, when teaching linear functions, I'd say, put it in, go to your table, copy it down, that's all I need to see. But I felt like there was no work being done there. I felt like the calculator was doing everything. Now that I have this shortcut feature, I would use it to have the students create their own table. Substitute in 0. Substitute in 1. They are making a decision on what value is being stored in for x. They are making it go up by 1. The y value is going up by 4. They're starting to make those connections. There's no connection, I feel, made unless you're pointing it out to them in the table. So it's a feature I like to showcase. Now, before I get back into the problems, think about Algebra 2. If y1 equals 4x plus 5, and y2 happened to be something like x squared, I could now go to alpha trace, select y1, open parentheses, alpha trace, select y2, open parentheses, and put a numeric value in there. You can do composition of functions right here on the calculator. Now, these are just tips I like and I see in the chat. There's Maureen sharing another way to do it. Awesome. Awesome. Evaluating the expression, that's one way of doing it. Hey, on the Inspire, I could put in 4x plus 5, and the Inspire has a feature called such that. By pressing Control equals, I see my inequalities, and there's a such that symbol in the bottom right of that menu. I can follow it up with x equals negative 3, and it will evaluate that expression when x equals negative 3. You could still do the store and all that, but I think that's a nice little shortcut. Number 18 from that same exam, which ordered pair does not represent a point on the graph? And here it is. Okay, so you could go to y equals, clear out what's in there, type in what you're given, 3x squared minus x plus 7, and kids instinctively would probably try to graph it. But the problem is, many of these points, look at those y values, are way over positive 10, and some kids don't know how to set up their window, so they're at a loss. And when you go to the table, these only have integer values. The kids might struggle and not be able to get these where they need them to be. So, again, a great reason why alpha trace, selecting y1, and you can put in x values. So if I went with, let's say, answer 4, 2.5, the output is the y value. Oh, it's there. Hopefully the kids didn't get caught up with the not present. Okay, so scroll on up, change it to possibly answer 3, 10 1/4. And that value, oh, it was 1.25. I'm bound to make one mistake per presentation, and that's the only one. There you go. So that one doesn't quite match up. And there's many other ways to do it. I just like to show the kids that way of doing it simply because the graph is going to lead them a little dry. Ooh, you might be seeing right now that I have grid lines on my graph. That's a CE feature. If you have access to CEs, you just go into your format and you turn on the grid line. And now it's always on for me. Building math confidence. Gonna go on a tangent right here. I'm gonna put a fraction in here. Okay, so I have 1/2 x plus 1. Let's say you still love the table. That's fine. And you see the table here. It's nice that it has fractions represented, but you only want to see the nice values, the pretty numbers. You could hit the plus sign when you're on a pretty number, and it changes the x increment step size, if you will. So I had a denominator of 2. If I change it right there without going to table setup, you can change your table in real time. Again, I'll show that. You're in the table, you're on a nice value, usually the y-intercept. You hit the plus sign, and you can change the x step size in real time. People did it before by going to table setup, but the problem is here, you have kids that want to watch the world burn, and they're going to start asking questions about, hey, what does this independent-dependent stuff do? They change the setting, and then it messes everything up. Question from the chat. Does TI plus CE work on regular 84 or 83? Not quite sure I understand that question. Anything that's not a CE feature, I'll definitely point out. The only thing so far that I've shown is the grid lines. Everything else is there. Alpha window. On the traditional 84, you only have 1 through 5. 6 through 9, you have to go in through the math menu. There's not a template for that. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so back to where I was. Systems of equations. Huge topic. Algebra 1, January 2020. Here's a system of equations. And here are 4 more systems of equations. Which one has the same solution? Personally, for 2 points, a kid could be spending 15, 20 minutes doing this. It's painful. It's painful to watch. All 83s, 84s can do this. I like to use the matrix feature. So on the 84, if you go to second math, just math, my mistake, just math. Again, my mistake. Second matrix, the next button down. You go over to the math menu within the matrix feature, and you choose reduced row echelon form, RREF. Now, before I go any further, this is something I did with special ed students. They can handle this. They can master this. So, reduced row echelon form, and I need to create a matrix. Alpha zoom is a shortcut for creating a matrix. I use my arrows, and I select a 2 by 3 matrix. If you teach Algebra 2, where there's 3 equations, 3 unknowns, you can change the rows and columns accordingly. I can now pluck from the original system of equations my coefficients. So 3, -1, 7, 2, 3, 12. When I press enter, x's were in the first column, y's were in the second column, and the constant was in the third. So going across your row, 1x and 0y's is 3, so x is 3. 0x and 1y is 2, so y is 2. The answer is 3, 2. I can then go and apply this to each of these 4 answers. Spoiler alert, answer 2 is going to be it because you'll get the same solution matrix. If the apps on the calculator do not perform symbolic manipulation, they are acceptable for the New York State Regents exams. When I press the apps key on my 84, many of you at home, when you press it, you only see finance. That means you've reset your calculator so many times, you've lost everything. I have a video on my YouTube channel of how to get this app back on. There's an app called Polynomial Simultaneous Equation Solver, PolySimult 2. I'll select it. I need Simultaneous Equation Solver number 2. I have 2 equations. There are 2 unknowns. And I'll select next, which is associated with graph. I can then take the coefficients. So that should be a minus sign there. And it actually has the values with the variables. So that might help some of your students. 7, 2, plus sign, 3y, and that should be 12. Verify that it matches up. Solve. 3, 2. Now, before the graphing calculator guidelines changed, apps were never allowed no programmable memory. As long as it doesn't perform symbolic manipulation, this, to each their own. You, as a math department, have to wrap your heads around whether or not you want them to have this app. You can turn apps on or off for testing situations. I'm just sharing that this exists. I'll go back to my main menu, and I'll quit the app. The Inspire menu, Algebra, solve systems of equations, and it too has a solver right here. I'll show that actually for this word problem. The browns and the greens go and buy cheeseburgers and medium fries. 4 cheeseburgers and 3 medium fries equals a total of $16.53. 5 cheeseburgers and 4 medium fries equals $21.11. So on the Inspire, I'd go to Algebra, solve systems of equations. And what's cool is because we're talking about cheeseburgers and fries, I don't want X and Y. I want C and F. And you write it in terms of C and F. So 4C plus 3F equals a total of $16.53. And for the greens, 5C plus 4F equals a total of $21.11. See, and then you can approximate them. So $2.79, $1.79. Again, these features can be turned off if you choose. In my in-class quizzes and tests, I want them to show me they can do it paper and pen. I block access to this. For high-stakes exams, use your best judgment on whether or not you want them to be available. Can I redo the matrix on the 84 again? I have a video for that, but yes. Second matrix, over to math, and find in the math menu reduced row echelon form. And once you have that in place, you create your matrix and solve from there. If you want, I can send you a direct link to that video where I have more time to do that. Looking at the time, 14 minutes. Algebra 2. Same thing. 3 equations, 3 unknowns. That's the only difference. Piecewise functions. Okay, I will say this up front. Piecewise is huge in New York State, and the CE has a feature for Piecewise. So this is a CE feature. You can still do piecewise graphing on the traditional 83s and 84s. I'll have a video for that on my YouTube channel. For the CE, you go to Math, you up arrow twice. If you happen to have a CE, and when you hit Math and up arrow twice, it doesn't have Piecewise, your operating system isn't up to date. I'll work with you to update your operating system so that you can do it. I'm going to select Piecewise and drop it down using the left-right arrows to 2 pieces. I'll select OK. That template matches right up. The fact that it looks like it is going to help students. I need the absolute value of x. Alpha window, absolute value, x. Now comes this inequality, this compound inequality. I'd have to start with negative 5, and TI made this easy. When you go back to that test feature, second math, on the CE that's been updated, there's a new menu that was never there before. When you arrow over to conditions, every possible condition is built in. I need x is greater than or equal to, but less than. Greater than or equal to, but less than. That's number 7. I match it up. And I put in the 2. Right arrow, negative 2x plus 10. I'll start with the 2. Second math, over to conditions. I need greater than or equal to, but less than or equal to, so that would be number 5, 6. When I go ahead and graph it, you see your piecewise function graphed. You can go to the table if you want, and you can see where it's defined and its values. This is awesome. I want to connect the graph with the table. Go to mode. This is on every 83, 84. You go down to the word full, and you go over to GT on the older models or graph table on the newer models. Now hit graph. You can see simultaneously multiple representation, the graph and the table. Put your cursor in the table. Second graph, and as you arrow down the table, look, I can see where negative 2, 2 lies. Okay, I can't wait. When I get to positive 2, where is it going to be defined? I would put all my 84s into graph table view and teach all year long like this. The kids need to make the connection between the table and the graph. Again, all I did was go to mode and change it from full to graph table view or GT on the older models. It's been there for years. We've never used it. Inequality graphing. We can now use the Inequals app on the Regents exam for New York Staters. So, Algebra 1, January 2020. The kids need to get this Y by itself, but if I go to apps and I turn on the Inequals app, many of you may not know about this app. Press any key. I'll clear out what I had in there. But this is the Inequals app. Look up here. There's a little x equals, meaning every time you struggle teaching Algebra 1 that this is x equals and that this is y equals, I'm doing this visually on the camera, now the students have a graphing calculator that will actually do it. So again, the Inequals app, great for teaching, and now with the new guidelines acceptable for the state exams, I can do the fraction alpha y equals, this is on all 84s and 83s using the Inequals app, x plus, whoops, I got an itchy trigger finger there, I apologize. X plus 4 in the numerator, 2 in the denominator. That's going to be my first inequality. Alpha y equals, select the fraction template, And for the next one, negative 3x minus 4 all over 4. So I will go on the 84 CE to the style of line, and I see that it's going to be strictly less than. Thing of beauty here. Dotted line shaded below. That's exactly what I need. I'll select OK. I'll go down to the second one, engage the style of line. I need greater than or equal to, solid line, shade below, perfect. Graph it, dash line shaded below, solid line graded, shaded above. I can see the solution set. This now is a game changer. On the Inspire, if I were to add a graphs page, my shortcut is delete the equal sign, and you have the inequalities already built in, and relation graphing. Speaking of geometry and relation graphing, it's like that was a perfect segue right there. The Inspire lends itself nicely to geometry. So if I were to select relation graphing, I can now write in terms of x and y, a circle. So I'm going to go with answer 2. I'll go with x minus 2 quantity squared plus, open parentheses, y plus 4, close parentheses, quantity squared, and I'll set it equal to 16. When I press enter, I can grab and move the graph paper appropriately because the Inspire is a drag and move action consequence. But we also need to see x equals negative 2. I hit tab, x equals negative 2, enter. I see a tangent right there. Wonderful. Unfortunately, the 84 does not have relations graphing. It does have an app for conics, which is nice. It doesn't do everything we're looking for, but it will assist. Time-wise, 109, 6 minutes. Equation solver, and I think, oh, perfect timing. Just finishing up right where I want it to be. This feature can be turned off now on the new 84s. Handouts, everything I'm doing right here, yes. My thoughts on the 89. 89, you can't turn off CAS functionality, so a lot of exams you already can't use. But 89 is great for SAT, AP. I love it for those courses. Okay, so the equation solver feature on the 84. You press the math button once. You press the up arrow once, and there's a numeric solver. I'll demonstrate it on the CE if I have time, the regular 84. The CE breaks it down to left-hand side, right-hand side. Expression 1, expression 2. So you can't get much easier than this. I'm going to type in x plus 4 quantity squared minus 2. That's what's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. In expression 2, I'll put in 7. As soon as I put something in this box, OK popped up. It's associated with the graph button. So if I hit graph, it looks just like the exam. It has an answer across from x. That's the last value I had stored in for x. If I hit graph, the little box says it's a solution. So one of the solutions is negative 1. Well, I bet you the other one, based on the answer, is negative 7. I'll put in a value, negative 10, and solve. What this algorithm does is it finds the closest solution to whatever's across from your variable. So you could have the kids stagger numbers, but if I put in 0, it's going to gravitate towards negative 1. If I put in negative 100, it's going to gravitate towards negative 7. Let's do this again, but with the traditional 84 for the last example, and this will be perfect timing. So I'm going to change my model to the traditional 84. I'll press math, hit the up arrow once, and there's the solver. It's going to look different. It doesn't have the nice user interface of expression 1, expression 2. You have to get it equal to 0. Hopefully the kids know if I move the 27 over to this side, it would equal 0. That's a big request. X minus 4 quantity squared, and then I'm going to subtract 27 from that because then it would equal 0. I'll press the down arrow. Again, it has 10 there. That was the last value I had stored in for X. There's no nice little button that pops up here. So above the Enter key in green, it says solve. It's for this feature. So you can type in a value. 10 is fine. I'll press alpha, enter, and it has the little box and says X equals 7. So I'm guessing, based on the answers, the other solution is 1. I could put in 0. I could put in 1. And I press alpha, enter to solve it. This sometimes will happen. Change your guess, maybe 1.5. Alpha, enter. You'll get that instant satisfaction of checking your answer. 1:13, 2 minutes to spare. I'm sure there were questions in the chat that I missed. I apologize for that. My YouTube channel, you just go to YouTube and search my name, Mr. Dana Morse. I can't tell you how many people replied to my links for this conference with Miss Dana Morse. It's in my signature. Hopefully you now know that Dana's a male. You gain something from this, I hope. My job is to help you. If you're using TI technology, reach out. I am here to assist. Let's have this conversation go beyond what you hear now. My job is to help you communicate with me. Dana, could you set up a Zoom meeting with me and my students and show something? I will help you with your students. I'll help you one-on-one. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. And that's it for me. Alyssa, I turn it over to you.
Well, if there's any more, we have 1 minute left. If there was any more questions, anybody wanted to put in the chat? Lots of thank yous.
Thank yous are always wonderful to hear. Hey, Jay, I'm glad you were able to get on.
The only other thing I think, but you said it, people wanted to know about your YouTube channel, but they can just search you.
Search me or email me. I'll give them a direct link. Yep.
Okay.
I'm here as a servant for you.
How will we get the info presented?
Okay, so all the sessions are being recorded by the moderators. I'm not sure if we're going to post them on the organization's website or if we'll host them on my YouTube channel. But you will receive emails from me after this conference. A lot of New Yorkers need CTLE credit. Regular participants just need a certificate of attending. I'm going to be handling all that. And once I know where these videos will be stored, I will share that as well. If you don't hear from me, email me. But I probably will not be addressing anything until Monday after today. But I've got your back.
All right. Well, it is 1:15, so thank you everyone for coming. We still have a few more sessions, which you guys can find and sign up for. And thank you, Dana.
Thank you all. Have a great one.